Well, that old boy Chesterton sure did think a whole lot about a fence. He wrote a whole essay on how one should approach it. A key component of making great decisions is first figuring out what the rationality of it was in the first place. For if we overlook that, you could be making things a whole lot worse. I know myself, when I get in a rush trying to fix or enhance an old project, I forget what I did it for in the first place, and in doing so, I can make it worse. So, I figured today what we could do is spend time looking at the key components and forces that are applied to this fence end, what dictates its design, and kind of the areas we can enhance its functional beauty. Followed up with, I'll show you how I did it so you too can build your own perfect fence end. So here are the key components of this H-frame fence end. The fence wire is going to be attached to both vertical posts, pointed to the right, inwards along the fence. That means the vertical posts by themselves are cantilevered here at the ground. With that force applied to just the post, that leaves them wanting to deflect inward this way. So to counteract the fence wires pulling and deflecting the post, we do two major things. One is this horse wire, and two is this crossbar. What happens with the horse wire is it's attached up here, the top of this right post. As the force of the fence pulls the post towards the right, the wire translates that force back down to the ground of the left post. Similarly, the second thing is this crossbar here. As the fence pulls this left post to the right, it transfers the force across to the top of this right post, then back down to the horse wire, again down to the left post at the ground. In doing so, it makes one solid object. Now, similar results can be accomplished with just two larger posts by themselves. Again, cantilever at the ground with more cement. However, I think that this looks a lot nicer, plus it's cheaper materials too. Another common thing I see that could be improved upon is a lot of people put this crossbar and horse wire somewhere at the center of their vertical posts. What this does again is leaves everything above that crossbar once again cantilevered. So for just a little bit more length in horse wire, you can get a much stronger triangulation. So just bring that crossbar on up. This is a high tension fence, and Lord knows I like putting that name to the test by cranking as far as I can. I think unless you're in your sunset years, let's try to have this thing not sagging. Let's dig into how this thing is built. After you dig the hole and set the post, read the back information to figure out how long the concrete should cure for. Now this fence wire is 47 inches tall. I like the gap above to be equal to the crossbar, which in our case is 3.5 inches. I also like the crossbar to be horizontal rather than following the train of the land. Once you've determined your height, mark the bottom of the crossbar. Place temporary support blocks at the mark to hold the crossbar in place. Once placed and leveled, use a strap to tighten the components together. Next, drill holes with the Texas nails. In this case, I'm drilling 3/8" holes 10 inches deep. I just eyeball the center of the crossbar and drill both holes before hammering in the nails. Now we're on the horse wire. Starting on the outside post at the ground, leave 2 to 3 feet left and hammer the 1 1/2 inch galvanized staple over the horse wire. Get this as low as you possibly can. You may want to clear part of the ground to make it easier to hammer. Bend the wire using your hammer and hands around the post. You want to bring the wire above the Texas nail on the inside post and nail another staple over that wire. Repeat this at least 2 to 3 times. Leave another 2 to 3 feet on the final end. I'll show you what we do with it later. Leave the strap in place and remove the 2 clamp support blocks. It's now time to tighten the wire. Take out your Texas nail on the crossbar and find where the vertical nail sits about a ½ inch from the top of the crossbar, and the horse wire sits on the shaft just below the head. Mark underneath on part of the crossbar and drill a hole. Underneath the crossbar, put 2 set screws into both ends. The Texas nail takes all the shear force, while the set screws will keep the crossbar from spinning, which really doesn't have much force applied to it that way anyways. Then, place the Texas nail a few inches upstream of the wire and about 3 inches inward on the nail shaft. Start winding it up. Once the wire is tight and the post leans slightly outward, finagle the nail into the drilled hole and hammer it home. I like to put a good amount of preload into each fence end. You can see this as the post itself, and even easier with a small gap that's made between the ground and the vertical post. I'll leave the crack there and watch it disappear as I crank the final fence into place. The last thing is use those 2 to 3 feet of horse wire that we started with and ended with. What we want to do is clamp the wire tight at the bottom and wrap it around. This keeps a much slimmer look down the whole length of the horse wire. Well, just like the Department of Transportation, I too am a bit over budget and behind schedule. I've got a handful of things to stage before I can actually hang the wire. That means it's going to have to wait for another time. Well, as always, I appreciate y'all sticking to the end. I definitely like hearing from you about what you liked about it, and especially what you don't like about it. Lord knows I ain't perfect, not even close. I also want to say thanks to everybody who's a subscriber. It means a whole lot to me. Now, the majority of you aren't subscribed, so if you do me a favor, go down, subscribe. I sure would appreciate it. You make this Texas boy smile. All right, y'all. Thanks for coming. Come on back now.